senior gardening, and I'm going to talk first for a minute about the word senior. I became a master gardener in 2006. I had retired in 2005 after 35 years of teaching, and I had reached the age of 65, and I thought, I think maybe I should retire from teaching because I've been at it for a long time. So I took a year off, and then in 2006, I took the training to become a master gardener. So if you figure out the statistics, you know that I really am kind of senior. But I love gardening. And so we'll get right into talking about the gardening. Well, if you were going to enter or come to my house, this is what you would see. You would see these steps that were put in, or stones that were put in by my husband and my son-in-law a few years ago. I've lived in this house for 47 years. Now, being a military wife, the first 10 years we were married, we moved 11 times. And they were what are called 11 permanent change of station, PCSs, which means you just pick up and leave at a moment's notice. So when we got here, I didn't think we were going to stay here too long, maybe 4 years. My husband was sent to the Pentagon. And then he was sent to someplace else. And then he retired and he got a job here. And so we ended up staying here. So I put the steps in. Before this, you came up the driveway, made a right turn onto the porch to the front door. So I wanted to call your attention specifically here to those plants that are lining the left side of that sidewalk. Those are wax begonias that I propagated myself probably 35 years ago. I love my yard. I have a half acre. Half of it is treed. And in the treed area, I used to have an edge along the woods of these begonias. They didn't look like this. Half were red, half were white. You know, the red-white thing, which was big a few years ago. So that fall, I decided, seeing they were 69 cents a piece, and I don't know what they are now, I decided to save the seed. So I did. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I'm sorry for the interruption. And when I planted the seed in the spring, it was powder. It was brown powder. And I thought, oh no. But I planted them. It took them a long time to come up because I wasn't certain how to do this yet. But this is what came up. So now I start the seeds between Christmas and New Year's. And I put in the potting mix and I sprinkle this powder over the top. And then I just spritz it and I cover it. And in about 15 days, they're up. They're slow growing at first, but then they really take off. But what's interesting, these flowers are white with a red edge, which I think is kind of interesting, but I like them. Oh, and what happened here? Somehow something happened to my computer. I'm sorry, let me see if I can get off this. I have no idea what's going on. There we are.
We can see propagation.
Oh, you can. Yeah, that's the one I had. And I went to go next beyond that. And I got back to something I don't know anything about.
Let me try. Can you see your slides or do you need?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you go. Okay, perfect.
But now that, and I used to have a very large vegetable garden, about 25 feet by 100 feet, and I grew everything. But when you get old and you have a few joints replaced and you become immobile at times, I've had to go to pots for my vegetables. So I don't think this is a full slide of all the vegetables, but I have I have a tomato. I have 5 tomato plants. Then I have a small container with Swiss chard. My husband prefers spinach, but I really like Swiss chard. And sometimes it overwinters. And then I have a Succio long cucumber on a trellis. Then I have a very tall bean, pole bean, and then another cucumber called Armenian cucumbers. Now, and there's a picture of one that had a couple of tomatoes on. I took these a couple weeks ago. But let's see if I can go in the right spot. Okay. But seeing I can't get down in the ground, I can't get on my hands and knees, I can't kneel down. So I have to have come up with some ways of using certain tools that help me. So I have a little rake, and it's got a shorter handle. And then I have this little cultivator thing, and then a little spade, and finally this particular entrance tool. And I'll show you more about that. And I also should mention, I have to use a walker. So this is my outside walker with the red table on it, so you can carry a lot of different stuff. But this is my favorite tool because I have to sit in a chair, and I put my arm through the circle, hold on to that, and I can dig and plant. And that's what I use for transplanting or doing anything, whether it's in a pot or whether particularly when I want to work in the ground. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you here about watering. And if you will look at this series of black hoses, it looks like. My son-in-law, who is, unfortunately lives 200 miles away because he is so innovative. He developed this water system for me one entire day in the middle of July when they came up for my husband's birthday. So he put in a fourth plug thing to my outdoor spigot. And this is one of them. It comes through underground and partly is above ground. And it connects to the spigot, and there's a little red button you can see. It's a little kind of oval button. And that turns the water on and off. So it comes up and then comes down here and goes under the soil mostly, or under the plants, I should say, and sprays the water. Saves me from carrying gallons of water to this particular site. And I'm back again. Lots of pots again. Well, I suppose at this point I should tell you what I use for pots. The tomatoes are all in large, probably 12 to 13 inch pots that are about 14 inches tall. But my Swiss chard on the left and the two trellises of cucumbers and the one of beans are all in grow bags. It is a type of non-woven fabric, but actually it is woven a little bit. It's just hard to explain. It's like a rough burlap, but water doesn't penetrate through the sides very quickly. It eventually will. So I have a one down here too, and what it does, there is a hose that runs through with holes so that every pot gets watered at one time. You know, I have the 9 plants there. I used to carry 15 gallons of water every day or every other day. And this is probably maybe 100 feet from where I exit the house. So there are a lot of pots. And I always fill them with commercial potting mix. Each year and I've been doing this now for 5 years, each year I empty out the soil from all of those, even those grow bags. I have 3 garbage cans that I use only for that, to store that soil mix for the next year. Because guess what? I don't mind using that mix again in flowers, in pots with flowers in, because they don't seem to have the same diseases that tomatoes and beans might get. Okay, so here is the outside one for the backyard. This one happens to be on right now, I see. It again has the little right turn on. Now, the water comes through, and he placed this hose underground, and I can't tell you exactly where it's coming up from. It's coming up from the ground, and then it runs through, back down again, and then there's 2 holes for 2 holes for the grow bags, but the tomatoes each have 1 hole. Now I also have a few pots over here at the corner of my driveway, and where the previous owner of the house, 47 years, 50 years ago, had placed concrete blocks in here. And so he always put his trash there. And we did too, but I said to my husband, you know, that when I first started, this is why I put my tomato plants, because it has a lot of light all day, and it has light get late in the afternoon. But my next door neighbor gave me 2 acorn squash plants. She said, wouldn't you like to plant these? I didn't know I had so many. So, but I also had one butternut plant started that I had taken seeds out of a butternut squash that was very tasty and said, I'll see what it does. I like to experiment and see what happens. This is a closer up view of it. And you can see the acorn has the lighter green leaves and the butternut has the darker green leaves. And there's a tomato plant, and there's another tomato plant over here. They were ones left. I was going to give them away, and then nobody wanted them at that point. Now, I also have some pots with flowers, of course. Anise hyssop, this is really interesting. This is here in August of 2019. And I'll have to share with you, when it came up, I didn't know what it was because I had never seen it before. I had planted just a mix of seeds. So it survived the winter of 2020. So this year I planted it in the ground so now it's being watered. So this is the part I don't have to talk about. We discussed it earlier. And over here is just a short view of a perennial garden I have. And this is where the only place where I plant in the ground. Everything else is in pots. And it's on its 3rd year. I had a terrible time with mulch that I had purchased from a box store. Beyond my belief, it evidently was filled with seeds of, I can't think of what it is right now, but it's good for sandy soil, it's good for hills, it'll grow everywhere, it trails, it spreads. The second year, after first year I planted, put the mulch down. The second year, I had a sea of green. I couldn't find a plant. And we picked and picked and picked out. This is the first year. We don't have it all over. It's still out there in seeds. I'll have to, let's say, no, that's not it. I just can't, it's out of my mind at the present time. Careful, I'm going to sound like Joe Biden. Okay, next one.
Joan?
Yes.
There is one question going back to the hoses. Can you leave the hoses in place all winter?
Well, I don't know what I know I probably won't. For this reason, this is in my front yard. It's on the side of my house. But I always take it down. I don't leave it up all year. It's only up there. And first I take the pots out filled with soil. And then I let them sit there for a couple of days, get rained on and so forth. And then I go out there and plant. But I take it down after the first frost because I don't want it sitting up all year long.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Now, it is the hose running from the spigot goes through vegetation to maybe 12 feet. And so what my son-in-law did, he put, ground staples, holding it right tight in the ground. You can't even see it. And I have to be careful when I walk there because I think, well, where's that underground part? And I had to tell the boy who mows my lawn that it's there, but it's way down in the grass. So there's no chance of the lawnmower running into it.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, I would hope to be able to save the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all hose. Now, my son-in-law buys this hose. I don't know. My daughter was going to send me the information, but I'm behind an email, so I probably didn't get to see it. But he buys all this stuff and puts it together. They live on 46 acres near Lynchburg, and they have 150 pecan trees at various stages of ages. And he uses this to water that, and they have 2 large vegetable gardens. And they have it, this summer, my grandson helped them out, and they have completely, now, the entire 46 acres can be watered by turning
Wow.
the spigots in 4 places. So it's
Nice.
more efficient of your time. And as you get
Very
older,
nice.
that's more important.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
All right, now we'll look at what bounty I have received from these pots. Oh, I'm going to go back. Can I go back? Do you know how I go back? Is there a way of going back on this? I don't think so. Well, I don't want to go back further yet. The previous one showed 2 different kinds of cucumbers. The Sukyo long is a long cucumber. It doesn't get larger than 1 inch in diameter, even if it gets that. And if it hits something, it curls. But the seeds are always small, and it's just very tasty. The other one is a one called an Armenian cucumber. And the first one I picked from that was 12 inches long and maybe 3/4 of an inch in diameter. It was very, very thin. The second one, and you have to say this, the lawnmower doesn't mow real close, so I have to go out there every so often and trim the grass. Well, I hadn't been in this area on the back side, and 2 or 3 days ago, I got this cucumber that is 15 inches long. It's about 1.5 inches in diameter, and it's perfectly straight. I brought it in, and I said to my husband, you know what? This could be a small baseball bat. It was that big. But it's good. The part of the center is hollow, but that's okay because the seeds are just coming out very easily, very, very fresh. Doesn't taste like it's old or anything. We were surprised. All right, on this one I have on the left, I have beans from the pole beans. I used Kentucky Wonder this year. They will grow up to 8 inches long, and you have to pick. I pick every other day. And this was, I don't know how much, it was something that I picked, would be 4 days ago. And then cherry tomatoes. Normally, I don't like cherry tomatoes, but I have 2 varieties that I plant every year. And I have them mixed up this year because I don't know which one is which. One is called Sweet 100, and the other is called Sweet 1000, or Sweet Million. Maybe it's Sweet Million. And this, I don't remember which is smaller and which is larger, but both of them are so delicious. One day I was out watering, carrying my gallons of water. I could put 4 gallons on my walker table and get out there. And I had put down 3 on the ground because I only could go over the grass with 3 of them, with one of them. So this mom was walking by with 3 little girls, and she said to those little girls, there's 3 bags of water here. Would you help the lady out by taking them to her? So those little girls did that. I was so pleased and so happy. And I said, now you'll have to come back when you see they're red and we'll have some to eat. I'm waiting for them to come because now I'm getting about a quart a day from 3 plants. So they're just really so tasty. Now, I had some problems with my heirloom tomatoes. These are red, starts with B, forgot it. Went right out of my mind. But you can see the cracking. I don't know if you can see my pointer on there or not. But that is caused by uneven water or too much water. You know, my husband, my son-in-law placed it on, I think it was Saturday, the 18th of July. We used it that day because we haven't had rain for about 4 days. And the next time, Monday it rained, Wednesday it rained, Friday it rained, and it seemed to rain for quite a long time. So they were getting more moisture than I was giving them. So you have to watch out with tomatoes for that. Okay, and I just mentioned once briefly my perennial area. That's where I put in the ground. And there's just a few pictures here, just one picture here actually. You see the bags of mulch. They have been removed. Although I need to put some more down again. I'm having so much trouble with wild violets in all of my area. But I like to have things to choose plants that will grow so that there's some type of floral display all year round. Now this is one that's in a pot. Do you recognize it, anyone? It's Joe Pieweed. And I can't remember whether this is Baby Joe or the regular one. But it's been in a pot for over 3 years. It blooms. It's about 3.5 feet tall. And now it gets watered with the water system. Now, when people talk about native plants, I always bring up Virginia creeper. This is the north side of my house. It's vinyl siding. And those Virginia creeper will grow up so tall. Now, this is the brick area. I can't get up above it. But it grows up till it reaches the vinyl siding. And I don't ever want it to get that tall. But because this is sloping down, I can't get in there to do anything. So this last spring, I hired somebody to take the sticks down that were still there, because in the fall I hadn't found anybody who I would want to come and do that, because I think there's some poison ivy in there too. But it's a native plant, but again, so is poison ivy, and I've got both of them in that area. And there's a little hydrangea here, but these are all in the ground. Now, excuse all the words that are here on this slide, but this is a blue hosta, and hostas have a place, even though they're not my favorite plant. But this one is pretty much one of my favorites. It is blue, a very pretty blue, and it blooms with not the tall stalks. I have some hostas that are like 4 feet tall, and they're, you know, bending over with all the seeds that are there. But this one stays a nice size, and all those things are on there from a class that I took from North Carolina State, and we had to take all these pictures. But I just love this plant. It is in the ground. Now, this is not mine, and I don't know where I found this in my photos, but I wish I had something like this. Look how tall it is from the ground. So that's at standing level, and the onions up there. So there are lots of opportunities and options for people who can't get down on the ground to actually work in the soil. And like me, we're not about to give up gardening just because we can't do it like we used to do it. I should tell you, I started gardening when I was 10 years old. I grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin, and we had a 5-acre vegetable garden because we were a family of 6, and we always had a hired man who worked out too. And we needed a lot of vegetables to live on. This was back, well, I was born in 1940, so you can figure out it was a long time ago. My father had graduated from the University of Wisconsin's agricultural short course. It was a 2-year program. The kids came in October and went to school until the end of March. And then they went back home again because they would be needed on the farm. And so my father was very avant-garde as far as farming techniques were concerned. And he would always, I was in the 4-H program, he would always hitch up one of the horses to a 1-horse cultivator and go through my vegetable garden when it was time for the judges to come out and see how well you were doing. But I'm just going to share one last thing here. See those cabbages down in the lower left? I just read something about this the other day. I don't know if it was a YouTube video or what, but the man who had a small head of cabbage in his hand, and he said, you know what? I'm going to show you how to make sauerkraut. And he took the core end of that cabbage and he dug it out, probably 5 inches it looked like. And then he filled that opening with salt. And then he immersed that head of cabbage in salt water. To me, it looked like one of those 5-quart ice cream containers with a lid. And he immersed that lid in there, the cabbage in there, put the lid on and said, in 6 weeks, I'll have sauerkraut. How easy that sounds. I didn't grow any cabbage, so I can't get it and try it unless I buy a head. I might just do that to see what happens. I know this is very small for you, but these are just some tools and where I was able to get things. I'm gonna, you can look at that if you want to, or I can send it if you want. But here's the thing, look up here at the top, help with disease. This is Vegetable MD. It's out of Cornell University, which is, I think they're land grant college in New York. But they have a wonderful, wonderful website on plants, vegetable plants. And they have 420 some tomato plants, and they tell you which ones are likely to develop a disease and what are the diseases. You name the vegetable, it's on there. So that if you just do Vegetable MD at Cornell, it'll come up. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was great, Joan. Does anyone have any questions for her? Anybody? Crickets?
I have a question. Well, that little tool was fascinating to me. The little shovel.
Yes.
Where in the world did you find something like that?
My daughter has given me all the tools I have. She works for VCE in the SNAP Ed program. And so she's out and about and she always finds things. She didn't tell me which one. You might check Amazon. That's one listed there. Well, actually, I think 3 of them out of the 4 are Amazon. So I suggest you check maybe with Amazon. I guess I have never done that.